All right, so we wanted to bring up really quickly some changes to call number analytics that are happening this month. This is something we talked about at the Montana Library Association conference for those of you who were able to attend our session. And we provided a handout during that session that has since been updated, and the handout is included on the Aspen event. And it's what I'm going to be referencing as I talk about this. We also have an updated knowledge base article, and there will be more coming for like frequently asked questions and things of that nature in our knowledge base, which I will reiterate at the end. But just so you're aware, you'll be able to access this information in multiple ways. All right. So what is a call number analytic? Many of you will know, especially if you're a cataloger. Some of you may have heard this term, and others of you may be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So a call number analytic is the bit of the call number that comes after something that appears as a bar capital Z. And you may hear it referred to as the bar Z or pipe Z because that little mark is like a pipe. The system, so workflows, will analyze what comes after the bar Z in your call number field to know which part of a series or multi-part work you own, that this overarching kind of group record that you've attached to, which part of it you have in-house. So this is useful for sorting when you're looking at options for what your library owns in the catalog, as well as for placing holds. And so I have a little screenshot to the right of what it might look like when someone goes to place a hold on a specific item that libraries in a sharing group may all own. So if you're really hot to trot and you want to check out or place a hold on the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, when you go to do that in Enterprise, as it is now, you have a lot of options in the drop-down. And that's because people have been entering the call number analytic rather inconsistently over time. We haven't necessarily had set rules. And so that's something we're working on rectifying now. All right, so we have three basic changes that are starting this month. So May 2025. Workflows will no longer force a bar Z into a call number when you type capital V period, or when you type in other text combinations like month and year. And that's relevant for those of you who are cataloging your periodicals or like your magazines and rely on that forced call number analytic. This change, just so we're aware, applies only to the Dewey classification scheme. Catalogers will need to add the bar Z manually when necessary for those that are using the Dewey classification scheme. And this is meant to make it more intentional. It means that we're going to avoid what I said of like the bar Z automatically being added when you're trying to create a call number, but maybe you don't intend to actually add an analytic to it, but it happens anyway because of what you're typing. So we're trying to avoid that mess, but know that since you will need to add it manually sometimes when the situation warrants, we have specific guidelines for that, which I will get into. The Dewey per class scheme, that's for periodicals only, will still force the bar Z. So if in the past you've used the Dewey class scheme and you have cataloged your periodicals that way, and you're used to having the bar Z forced, you'll just want to switch over to using the Dewey per class scheme. And we'll have screenshots of that in our article, so don't worry. Secondly, the space between the V period and whatever number follows it will be removed in batch so that it will read as bar Z, V period, and then whatever the number. No extra spaces in there. This is meant to improve labeling issues and create consistency. Catalogers will be expected to enter the analytic without a space between the V period and the number. With one caveat here, we will not be doing batch changes of like DVD call number analytics. I'm talking specifically when you think about your TV series. Those won't necessarily be changed in batch, but we do have guidelines for how to fix those, and I will be covering that as well. Finally, catalogers will be expected to use separate bibliographic records for series. So you're going to want to attach, generally, if you have an item in a series, you're going to want to attach to an individual like title record for that, and we'll get into that more. That's definitely been something that's been a question for us for many years, and we've finally come down on the side of the argument that we want separate bib records for those. Okay, so like I said, I'm just going through the handout that shout out to Melody. She spent a lot of time putting this together. So we're going to go through, let's see here, 4 different examples. And the first one is, if you have a book that comes out annually or regularly, so some examples of that I have in the chart on the right, like travel guides, Fedora's Italy, the Guinness Book of World Records, Taste of Home Christmas, anything like that, you are going to want to select a title record that is specific for the year of your book. And if no record like that exists for the specific year in the system, we don't want you to bring in a record that is for all the years. Instead, we want you to open a ticket with us to help you find or create a record that you need. Because this record will indicate the specific year of your book, you do not add a bar Z to your call number. However, you can add the year to your call number if that's your library's preference. It is not required, though in the examples on the right, I have done that just so you can see what it would look like. Exceptions to this rule for books that come out annually or regularly are things like yearbooks, annual reports, and some similar items that may need to share a record. If you run into any of those and you're confused about the instructions we provide in our knowledge base, just open a ticket. We can help you clarify what kind of record you should be attaching to. Okay, so that's the first example, books that come out regularly or annually. Second one, this is where it starts to get pretty exciting, is when you have a book that is part of a complete set. And the examples of that are A History of Montana by Helen Fitzgerald Sanders, pardon me. Also Encyclopedia Britannica, again, the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. How do you know, though, if you have an item that's part of a set as opposed to a series? Well, in this case, if you have a group of items that has one common title, like the Encyclopedia Britannica, they all have that title, and it's usually considered to be one consistent work that's broken into parts, then it's usually a set. And the Mark 300 tag in the title record will have the number of volumes listed. So the examples we have here all meet that criteria. And on the left, here are the steps for how to apply your call number analytic. So if your set shares one barcode for all volumes in the set, we know some libraries do that in this case, you're going to add the bar Z at the end of a call number, and then add a V period, and then the full number of volumes separated with a dash or a hyphen. So for example, Sanders' History of Montana would be bar Z V period 1-3. And similarly with Encyclopedia Britannica for volumes 1 through 27 or what have you. If each volume of the set has its own item barcode, then you're just gonna end your call number with bar Z, V period, and then the number of that volume for each item. And that, so I have a couple examples of individual barcodes there. Do not include any other information after the bar Z. The bar Z lets the system know this is basically a subfield of the call number, and we want to make sure that those are just uniform across the system so that if anyone goes to place a hold on those items in their dropdown, they'll only see kind of these approved ways of labeling the analytic. The admins want me to let you guys know that title records that include multiple volumes, but you only have one item listed from a library will be assumed to include all volumes in the set. So the administrators may add the bar Z to fix holds and cataloging issues on these records. Okay. Now you may be wondering, how do I add a call number analytic or a bar Z to my call number? And so I have this dandy little visual of the keyboard, and all you'll have to do is press the shift button and then the button that's like right above enter or below backspace, and it will create that pipe for you. And it doesn't matter which shift button you use. I know you have two, but I just wanted to highlight where they are next to each other. So that's how you'll manually add that bar Z. Okay. Now, if you have a book in a series, these are definitely kind of the more recognizable ones. But hold on, before I get into that, how do you know if it's a series and not a set? We kind of talked about sets just a moment ago, but bib records that have a mark 490 or 830 tag are in a series. They have a series statement or authority assigned to them. And items in series usually have a series title that is different than the individual volume or item title. So a really good example of this is we have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but when people are looking for specific books in that trilogy, we're going to think The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, Return of the King. So those individual book titles are different from their series title. Okay. In this case, you do not add a bar Z to call numbers for series where each part is on its own record. That's because the title record is indicating to the person, here's the title of this item. It is part of this series. And the title record, if you want to add the series number order, such as number 2 or number 3, in the call number, you may. This will not cause issues as long as there is no bar Z in the call number. But in the examples on the right with the Two Towers, you may put like fiction Tolkien number 2, just for ease of your patrons finding it in the call number. If items in series do not have individual titles, it is still recommended to have them on their own title record if one exists. This can be particularly useful for manga. For example, Fruits Basket does not have individual titles for each volume, but there is a separate record for each volume in our system. And this kind of goes back to it also being more intuitive for our patrons if they're searching the series Fruits Basket and they look that up in the system and they're able to kind of scroll through their list of results and see like cover art for each volume in the series that looks different. They can more easily identify which they're looking for, as opposed to one bit of cover art that applies to however many 20, 30 something volumes. So this is kind of where we're finally taking a stand, and we want separate records for each of these. If the only record that exists for a book in a series lists all volumes together on a serial record, let us know. Reach out to us for assistance. and we can help you in finding or creating individual records. In some rare cases, a group bib record may still be the best option, but we'll definitely confirm that with you so that we know we're doing the right thing. You'll notice in all the examples on the right, just to drive this home, that we're not using a BARZ call number analytic because the title record already indicates the series order or which item it is in a series. Okay. And finally, television series on DVD. If you have these, when possible, individual seasons of TV series should be on their own title records. This is easiest for patrons to find and understand. And it's recommended that libraries check out each season as a whole rather than breaking it into individual discs. Again, because it's easier for patrons to understand. And it also reduces complications with volumes and discs that we've run into in the past. Now, we are now insisting that folks use the word disc or discs instead of volume when you're putting call numbers together for your DVD sets. So some examples of this. If multiple discs are checked out together using one barcode, we want you to add bar Z discs and then 1 through 3 or similar to show that your barcode includes all the discs. If you barcode and check out each disc independently, you must still add the bar Z disc 1 or similar to show which disc that barcode represents. Make sure to not include any other information aside from the disc information after the bar Z. So if it's information about the series, the season, or other part information, that should come before the bar Z. Please note that just like with some of the other items we've talked about, DVD television series that have one item or barcode listed from a library will be assumed to include all discs in the set. So the system administrators may add the bar Z to fix holds and cataloging issues on these records. And one last thing that I put on this slide, definitely don't use the ampersand or the and symbol to indicate if you only have 2 discs in an analytic. Instead, use the hyphen or the dash. So discs 1 through 2, not disc 1 and 2. And again, I know this was a brief overview. We have an article right now cataloging series, multi-part works, and applying analytics. It's in our knowledge base. It is incredibly thorough and very helpful. We have instructions, screenshots, and flow charts to help you catalog items in a variety of formats and more items than I covered in just this brief presentation. There are also instructions for handling local items and kits and things like that. We have more articles forthcoming. We'll let you know in our GovDelivery newsletter when those are available. We also have the handout attached to this Aspen event. And if you're still have questions, want to learn more, please open a ticket with us. We would love to hear from you. And I have not been looking at the chat.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say, I'm gonna back up and like read the questions aloud for the people who were.
I have been answering a few of them in chat, but I'm
Yep.
happy to
perfect.
review them as well because they are important questions.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank
if
you,
you want
Melody.
to, yeah, if you want to
Yeah,
Melody,
Amy,
that'd
if
be
you
good.
want
Like,
me to do that, let me scroll back so I can take a look. So
yeah,
Kylie, thank you very much. And I also appreciate everyone's time in looking at this because I know it is a change, and in some cases is a change of things that you got used to doing the other way for years. And so I know change can be very challenging, but this is to address all the problems that have been building for multiple years on holds, but also shared record keeping. So even if you're not in a sharing group and are just on your own, these issues can affect you and can affect you when you search or when your students or users search. So it says, are you going to batch move the books we currently have on serial records to individual records? And the answer to that is mostly yes. Sometimes we can't effectively find them, but in most cases we can. We did a pilot with the BridgerNet libraries, which is the Gallatin County libraries, where we moved a whole lot of theirs. I don't think we got them all, but a whole lot of their main manga and other things in series that were sharing records onto their own records. And so there are, in a lot of cases for the popular series, already individual item records in the system that we can transfer to. If you want to transfer your own, you definitely can do that. Just make sure that if they had the bar Z in the call number on the old record, that you're going to want to remove that. The forcing of the bar Z has already been removed, so it will not force a bar Z in there anymore. So you can move them now if you want to, but we will be doing them in batch for you. So if you don't want to take the time or you don't have the time, that's fine. But if you notice some and you want to go ahead and do them, you absolutely can. This is the new recommendation, so you can definitely move forward with doing this. But yes, we're going to continue to clean these up. It is going to be a long project. We have a huge system. We have over 200 libraries. So yes, we will be moving forward to do that for books. For DVDs, we were actually asked by some of the libraries not to do it, in part because if you look at a lot of those television series, there is so much variation in how the call numbers have been done. Some have like a season or S period, number period, disc period. There's all sorts of different things. And so batch changing them, we have a feeling that we would accidentally create more issues rather than fix a lot of those problems because of the variation. Also because DVDs usually have a little bit more of a limited life than books. We do think some of those will sort of just fix themselves over time, but as we see them, we will fix some of them, but we're not going to be batch fixing the DVDs. We will mainly be fixing them when we notice holds issues in the system that are being affected by those problem call numbers. So that's that question. So Abby says, if I understand right, When Calls the Heart is a good example. If it is season 1 and there's discs 1 through 3 and there's a season 1 discs 4 through 6, do we list it that way? And yes, I put into the reply there, if you split that into 2 different parts to circulate so that discs 1 through 3 are circulating together and discs 4 through 6 are circulating together, you would put a bar Z discs space 1-3 for the first one and bar Z discs space 4-6 for the second part. And here's the tricky thing. If you circulate the entire season together, we do need you to add the full number of discs. And this is because when people go to place a hold and there is no call number analytics and it's on a bib record with things that do have a call number analytics, the only way to select the entire series is by choosing a blank space. And there is no instruction for that and no indication that they need to select the blank space. And so if you have ever been a library that finds your patron has placed a hold on an item they're not allowed to have from another library, that's how they did it. Because all of the call number analytics are all shared, even if the items cannot be shared between the patrons. It is a weird system glitch. And so this is in part why we're making some of these changes. So let me know if you have any additional questions about that one. But yes, you would split up discs 1 through 3 and discs 4 through 6. Is there a way that these sort nicely if the series order is included? Thinking manga, some very, very long. So yes, we are aware that some of the sorting is problematic, and part of that is because they haven't been cataloged consistently. So when we split them out into their own individual records, I've been trying to keep them consistent. And in a lot of cases, when you're at OCLC and looking for a new record, you can see a variety of different options, especially for manga. So you might see 3 or 4 different ways that the title is listed, where it might say, Naruto number 5, Naruto set 5. And you want to choose the one that looks most like the other records in the system. If you have questions about this, or you're finding that they're all sorting except number 7 or something, please put in a ticket and we can investigate, and it might just require us to kind of tinker with the records, find maybe a better record that matches the other titles that we have in for that series. So then they should sort pretty well. Let's see. So if I understand, okay, so that one I answered. Do we need to update TV series with bar Z or not? So if it's an individual disc, no. But if it is a TV series that has more than one disc, yes, you will have a bar Z and the number of discs, even if it is all the discs for all television series, except if there is just one disc. So if they have a, season 1 of MASH and they put it all in one disc, you don't need to add the bar Z and the number of discs, because the record only has one disc. It can't be split into parts. Mel has added the link to the knowledge base article. Also, if you haven't looked at it, there is a handout similar to the one that we gave out at MLA, if you came to that, but it has new information. So even if you were at the MLA session, please go and get that. So if you go to the Aspen event for this meeting, the PDF is there. There's no good way to add a PDF in our knowledge base, but we might figure out a way to email it in a future GovD maybe. We are also turning a lot of that information into an FAQ on analytics, so you'll see that coming too, and we'll share that. So a lot of our manga seems to have poor series titles, if they have one at all, like a published series in there instead of the series name, like Shonen Jump. Will we be putting new series tags in manga? Do we have to do those manually? So we are, as part of creating better records, we will be fixing a lot of that. It is a shared system, so it's going to, again, take some time. So it's going to be a little messy for the short run, but we are absolutely confident that this will improve the findability and the holdability and the movement of things in the system. So bear with us, but yes, we will be including the series titles as well as like the bib titles and the sorting. So should we fix our DVD call numbers or just catalog with the discs in the call number moving forward? The DVD call numbers, you can still have whatever DVD call numbers you want. We are not changing your call numbers. After the bar Z, that's a subfield. So that is the part that has a function. So we don't care what you use for your call numbers, but after the bar Z, we need the number of discs to be consistent. And so, yes, we are asking, as you see those and as you have time, to fix your DVDs and add the number of discs, because that will make it easier. And that's just for television series. So most of the time, I haven't seen very many of you at all splitting up DVD sets that legitimately come with 2 or 3 DVDs. Like if you have a movie that has 2 DVDs because one is like special features and one is the main film, we usually don't see you guys circulating those separately with 2 different barcodes. I guess if we saw a lot of that and it was causing problems, we could address that. But mostly what we're talking is television seasons, because some of you split them into parts and some of you do not. So that is the main focus. So if you're going to put your efforts anywhere, put it into television series multi-disc sets, and you're just adding bar Z and the number of discs after the bar Z to create a subfield. Amy has linked to the handout. Thank you, Amy. So Deb, I'm not sure with the PDF. So Amy has linked it right above there, so you can click on it from there.
She ended up being able to access it.
Good. Okay. You said if it has its own record, then it does not need bar Z, but also said to put bar Z for entire seasons. So DVDs have a bar Z no matter what. I may have addressed this by just talking about it a little more, but basically, anytime you are cataloging part of something that may not be the entire thing, you need to have the bar Z. And because some people in our system separate DVD seasons into multiple parts and some don't, the only way to avoid people not being able to choose, or the people being able to choose what they want, is to make sure everyone adds the discs. And so, for example, if you do the whole season of The Office and you don't add the bar Z and the number of discs, in order for your patrons to get your copy, they would have to choose the blank space. Haley, can you scroll back up to that picture of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire? Yeah. So do you see where the blue space is at the top there above the volume 1? That's where all of you who have no call number analytics are. There's nothing there. Patrons have to somehow guess to click on the blank space. And as we all know, they're not going to do that. They're going to pick something from the list, right? So they're going to choose something in the list. And if we want them to choose the right thing, then everyone has to add something so that they choose something that exists for them. I hope that makes sense. It's definitely a confusing topic. So it's not just you. It is confusing. And we wish the system had a better way of dealing with it when there wasn't anything listed and there are things on the same record that do have a call number analytic, but this is what we've got. And I can tell you I've been in other ILS systems and they don't manage it all that much better. So it's not just a Circe Dynix issue either. And then Karen says, so if I have yearbooks and they do not sort in order, is it something wrong with the Z? It possibly could be. So all of your yearbooks, if they're all sharing a record, and most of the time yearbooks do because they don't change year to year. I mean, obviously they have different students, but usually unless there's a name change, like you called it the Colstrip Cougar, and then later they changed their mascot to something else, you would want to have at the end of your call number a bar Z and a 4-digit year for the year of that yearbook. If you don't have a bar Z in there, it may not be sorting correctly for that reason. And occasionally we also see some weird glitches in Circe, so there could be other things. So if you are wondering, we can look into it and try and figure it out. But yes, go ahead and submit a ticket if you have any questions. We expect to get a lot of tickets on this issue because it is a big change that we are asking of you guys. But we're hoping this will address a lot of the issues that we spend time fixing. Many of you have had problems where you're like, hey, how did someone place a hold on one of my items when I don't share materials with them? Oh, this person had a hold for almost a year and they didn't get the item even though it's sitting on my shelf. We have a lot of those problems on a regular basis that we're fixing. And this will hopefully be the solution for these problems. I think I've answered all the questions in the chat. Does anyone else have additional questions? We have 5 minutes left. We have managed our time so well. Please share this with your cataloging teams. We know that many of you are not your cataloger, or you do some cataloging, but you aren't the only one. So definitely share. And we also know that this is not going to happen overnight. So some of the things you could do that we can't do for you, or we may not find time to do over time, is your travel guides. We noticed some travel guides going back 20 years. And I just want to tell you that your patrons probably aren't finding some of those as helpful as newer versions. So one thing you could do to help us is weed your travel collections. Because those are things that we don't want to have to transfer to individual records for something from 2008. If you have a newer copy, it might just be time to weed the older one, and then we don't have to transfer those to individual records.
I was going to add, Melody, we won't be batch changing the TV series in mass just because of the different labeling and different, we don't want to break anything for anyone for those. But if you have done it consistently and you just want us to switch things for you, like if you're using the letter V now and you just want us to switch the word discs for you, open a ticket and we can do that kind of work for you.
That's a good point. And yes, we can totally do that. Also, in general, most of you are Dewey libraries, but just a reminder that if you are one of our special libraries or one of our academics and you use a different call number scheme, this will not affect you as much. And you probably don't have as much of the material that it would affect anyway, because you're not having a lot of manga and other things at like the Department of Transportation, for example. So those libraries use different call number schema. And so we do not, we won't be batch changing or fixing a lot of those. You guys are in your own little world there.
Also, if you are using Dewey for everything, the Dewey class scheme for everything now, and you want to use the Dewey per class scheme for your magazines going forward, so the pipe Z will automatically fill in, we can batch change that for your existing magazines also.
Yes. And Kylie didn't mention it, but something that I absolutely love about this is if you have been in the system a long time and you've noticed that sometimes you add certain author names and it automatically forces in a bar Z even though you don't want it. Like, for example, any author with the last name May. The system was recognizing May and the date as being a month and year and was forcing an analytic in there, even though the author's name was May. And there was literally no way to fix that. Or if they had WIN abbreviated from an author's last name, it was thinking that was winter and was forcing in the bar Z. So that is done now, which is just lovely. Denise, I will take a look at Doctor Who. I have a big long list of things I'm fixing and I do a few a day. So what we can't fix in batch, I will try my best to kind of tinker with and see. Do you mean so the new series, the old series, or do you have like a specific, or I'll just take a look. I'll take a look.
This one, as things get separated onto different records, it might not be noticeable, but we do expect there to be a slight increase in performance, because what we have seen is some of the bib records that have multiple hundreds of items on them, they load much more slowly in workflows. I don't know if they load more slowly in enterprise, but as we'll be separating these apart, those records will load a bit faster in workflows.